Once again, I welcome you all. So students, in the previous class, I completed an introduction to the poet A.K. Ramanujan, and subsequently, I also talked about the thematic concerns of the poem titled as Prayers to Lord Murugan. So students, first of all, you need to understand that Murugan is the god with 6 faces and 12 hands. Now you can imagine, as we are very well familiar with Lord Ganesha with an elephant-like face and 4 hands. So likewise you have this Lord Murugan, which is predominantly found in the southern part of India. And this Lord Murugan is considered to be the god bestowing prosperity and fertility in the life of people. So the poet is putting an effort to focus on the Dravidian religious tradition, and similarly he is trying to present a kind of similarity between the Dravidian and Hindu traditions. His special focus is on the basic religious outlook, practices, and the themes that we generally find. As I said before, the present poem, that is the Prayers to Lord Murugan, is a sequence of poems. It is not a standalone poem actually. The poet has provided, or the poet has written 11 different poems. Some are very short and some are having the adequate length. And that sequence in totality forms a title of the poem called Prayers to Lord Murugan. So students, please remember that we are talking about a deity, a Hindu religious deity, who is known as Lord Murugan in the southern part of India, that is Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. But here, for your better understanding, I would like to tell you that we know this figure, this godly figure, as the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. We know that Lord Ganesha happens to be the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Another son is Kartikeya. So this Kartikeya is no one but Lord Murugan. So as soon as I spoke about Kartikeya, probably you might have created an image in your mind about that particular Hindu deity. And this particular poem, that is the Prayers to the Lord Murugan, is going to describe, the various aspects of Indian people, particularly southern people, their strong belief in the Lord Murugan, because everybody wants prosperity and fertility in life. And this Lord, that is Lord Murugan, stands for that particular thing only. So in the previous class, I recited the poem also for your better understanding. And I promised that today, that is in this period, I will talk in detail about each and every stanza, each and every small or big poem written by A.K. Ramanujan. So let us see here now. I will start dealing with the poem in isolation. In isolation, in the sense, I will take every aspect of the poem into consideration. As I said, there are 11 different parts or small poems which are written in sequence by the poet. So I will do one thing now so that you will also understand me from a long distance on the online platform. So I will recite each stanza or each of the poem once again, and then I will try to summarize it or explain you so that you will be able to follow me properly. Now I start with the very first part, because already I said there are 11 parts or 11 small poems or short poems in this one. The first one I am going to deal with. Number one, Prayers to Lord Murugan, poem number one or prayer number one. You can call it prayer also. Prayer number one. Lord of new arrivals, lovers and rivals, arrive at once with cockfight and banner, dance till on this and the next three hills. Women's hands and garlands on the chests of men will turn like chariot wheels. See how beautifully the poet has presented the idea. First of all, you need to remember once again that this god, Lord Murugan, is the god of prosperity and fertility. That's the reason that the poet has said right in the very beginning, Lord of new arrivals. The Lord of new arrivals. You know, when we experience the spring season, what happens in the atmosphere? A kind of recreation takes place, a kind of revival takes place. And so many new things arrived in this mortal world. And that is the beginning of something new that we could see. So the poet says right in the very first line, Lord of new arrivals, lovers and rivals. See here, earlier also maybe some other class, I might have told you that love is the fundamental of living beings. Whether it is the case with the animals like us or any other living animate thing in the world, whatever it may be, you will find that love is the fundamental of living or life. So the poet says, Lord of new arrivals, lovers and rivals. So here the poet has presented a contrast, created a contrast. What kind of contrast? He talked about the lovers and parallelly he talked about the rivals. So both the things are actually contradictory. Both the things are the opposite things. Probably the poet is putting an effort because love and hatred, okay, or friendliness and rivalship, I think these are the aspects of life. You cannot say that we could live only with the presence of love in the world, or else we could live only with the presence of the rivalship or the rivalry in the world. No, not possible actually. When you admit or when you accept the presence of day, automatically you accept the presence of night also. So it is just like that. So the poet says, Lord of new arrivals, lovers and rivals, arrive at once with cockfight and banner. See here now. Now the poet is making an appeal. The poet is requesting Lord Murugan. Hey you Lord, please come to our region as early as possible. Let the cockfights begin. Let the banner of the universe change. Let everything around us go through a kind of change. Let it everything get illuminated with the light that you spread. The poet says, Lord of new arrivals, lovers and rivals, arrive at once with cockfight and banner, dance till on this and the next three hills. Now you see the another request which is, made by the poet here. What kind of request is this? The poet is trying to request Lord Murugan that you please come over here on this hill first, where I am residing. And similarly, you also spread your radiance over there in the nearby 3 more hills. It indicates that the poet's approach is universal approach. Poet is not a very selfish one who thinks of himself only or for his own prosperity and fertility only. The narrator or the poet or the persona in the poem is also requesting God Murugan or Lord Murugan that he should make his entry on this place where I am residing, and similarly he should also stay for long over here in the nearby 3 more hills also, because once his arrival is there, automatically a revival will take place. Automatically some recreational activities will take place. Automatically a kind of renaissance will be there, and that will make this atmosphere very pleasing and pleasant to everybody. Towards the end of this particular part, that is prayer 1, there are 3 more lines. As the poet says, women's hands and the garlands on the chests of men will turn like chariot wheels. See here, earlier also I might have told you in some of my classes that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1 in human anthropology. What I mean to say, you might have seen an image of Ardhanareshwari. I hope you know Ardhanareshwari concept, which is a genuine concept from Hindu religion. And since throughout the country, we find the people believing in the presence of God and especially Lord Shiva. And so whenever we talk about Ardhanareshwari concept, Ardhanareshwari means half the Nar, half the Nari. It means half the man, half the woman. So when you have seen, or you might have seen the image of Ardhanareshwari, you might have seen that half body that of Lord Shiva and half body that of goddess Parvati, both are brought together forming the entity of a human being. And that's why I said, in human anthropology, 1 plus 1 is equal to 1. This 1 means 1 man plus 1 woman is equal to 1 human being. So the poet is also thinking on the same lines with a modern perspective. What he says? Women's hands and the garlands on the chest of men will turn like chariot wheels. If you want to continue this cycle of nature, this cycle of life, this cycle of human generations continuously, then the union of men and women is of course required. In the absence of the men, we cannot expect the further human generations. And in the absence of the woman, we cannot even imagine the progress of the human generations. So here, the poet is trying to tell you this thing very clearly, because we are talking about Lord Murugan, who is the Lord of prosperity and fertility. Fertility that of a woman also. Fertility that of the nature also. Fertility that of the land also. Fertility that of the other animals which are surviving on this planet also. So with a very broader perspective, I am looking at this expression, and that's why the poet says in the end of this first prayer, he says that, once again I repeat, women's hands and garlands on the chests of men will turn like chariot wheels. So let us look at the another expression made by the poet. Oh, where are the coxcombs and where the beaks glinting with new knives at crossroads? When will orange banners burn among blue trumpet flowers and the shade of trees waiting for lighting. See now, the very first expression here, the poet says, oh, where are the cocks, combs, and where the beaks glinting with new knives at crossroads? As I said, maybe this expression will be repeated again and again. Lord Murugan is the symbol of prosperity and fertility, especially fertility in this context, as the poet has said. He says that where are the cocks? Where are the new beaks, very small, tiny beaks of the new ones? And that is glinting with the knives at the crossroads. Probably you might have seen the confrontation between the cocks. Have you seen the cockfights ever? Cocks are also fighting, and especially in the southern part of the country, cockfight is a big business. So many people bet there and they earn and lose lakhs and crores of rupees in the cockfights. And probably poet is also very specific to refer to the Dravidian tradition of cockfights. And that's why he has made a clear reference here, that of the cock combs where the beaks glinting with new knives at crossroads. If you go to the southern part of the country, almost on every nook and corner, you find that the people are involved in the cockfights. And maybe the poet is putting an effort to present the Dravidian tradition of cockfights by the means of this poem. And so he has very clearly said, where the beaks glinting with the new knives at the crossroads. So this directly takes you to the Dravidian tradition as such. Then towards the end of the part 1, the poet says that, when will orange banners burn among blue trumpet flowers and shade of trees waiting for lightnings? Here the poet is talking about the cycle of nature. As you know, we have 3 major seasons in our country, and one after the other, automatically this cycle goes on. Now we experience the rainy season. It will be followed by the winter season. Winter will be followed by the summer season. And again the rainy season will come back. So likewise, the poet is trying to tell you, when will the orange banners burn among blue trumpet flowers? He is trying to indicate that now we are living in a very sunny atmosphere. It will of course go through a change. Spring will come. Regeneration will take place. Regeneration will take place. Revival will take place. Everything will be changed around us. And of course, in the course of time, we will be living under the shadow of the trees. But do you think that it will live long? No. In fact, this revival, this regeneration, this renaissance waits for the another season to come. That will be again followed by something new, and some change will take place. And here the poet says this thing, when will orange banners burn, blue trumpet flowers and shade of trees waiting for lightnings? Okay. So here, when do we experience the thundering and lightning? We experience thundering and lightning only in the rainy season. Sometimes in between also it happens, but this is the sign of a particular season only as far as Indian situations are concerned. Our poet might have been settled in the US, but by heart he is in the country, that is our country, India, and he talks about our scenario, he talks about our situations. So very beautifully he has concluded this particular part here, and he says that, when will orange banners burn among blue trumpet flowers and shade of trees waiting for lightnings. So, of course, whenever we are into one particular season, we have the foresight for the subsequent season. And when we get into the next one, again we keep waiting for the following one. So, this is the life, and we need to accept that change is the law of nature, and change is always taking place. It has no pause, no stoppage, no full stop at all. It's a continuous process as such. So, this is the end of the first prayer as expressed by or as presented by A.K. Ramanujan. I hope you have understood the pulse of the writings of A.K. Ramanujan, because the poet is very straightforward. His major focus is on the Dravidian culture, Dravidian religious practices, their strong belief in the presence of God, more particularly Lord Murugan, who is the symbol for prosperity and fertility. Now I switch over to the another part of the poem, that is prayer number 2. The poet says like this: 12 edged arrowheads for eyes and 6 foreseen faces, and you were not embarrassed. See here now, the poet is actually describing the image of Lord Murugan. Already I told you in my introduction that what kind of God is this? What kind of God is this? This is a God that has 6 faces. How many faces? 6 faces. Of course, 6 twos are 12, 12 eyes, right? 6 heads, right? And there are almost a dozen hands. How many hands? A dozen. A dozen means 12 hands. But the poet is not calling 12 hands like that. The poet calls it 12 arrows. Actually, if you have a bow, then you need an arrow, right, to target something. But the poet is calling these hands as the arrows. So the poet says, 12 edged arrow, heads for eyes, and 6 foreseen faces, and you were not embarrassed. One thing is very surprising. I find it ironical actually. A kind of ironical expression is made by the poet here. He says, hey, you Lord Murugan, are you not ashamed of your 6 heads, 12 eyes, and 12 hands, and 6 faces, and all that? So it's a kind of interrogation made by the poet. And very straight away, the poet interrogates that, hey, you Lord Murugan, since you are a Lord, since you are one of the gods, are you not ashamed of your look? Because you are carrying your 6 faces, 12 eyes like arrows and all that. So this is the expression which is made in the first part of this second prayer. 12 edged arrow, heads for eyes, and 6 unforeseen faces, and you were not embarrassed. Unlike other gods, you find work for every face. Wow, what an expression here. Now the poet is trying to make a comparison. What kind of comparison is this? This is the comparison of the business of one god with the business of another god. As you know, in the Hindu mythology and Hindu beliefs, we have different types of gods. It is said like 33 types of gods are there. In general, it is called 33 courts of gods. Some people have mispronounced it and they said koti. Koti means crore. That is not the actual perception. 33 varieties, 33 types. And here, when we talk about this particular expression made by the poet, The poet says, unlike other gods, you find work for every face. As you have goddess Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, Lord Ganesha, the god of intelligence and wisdom, goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of money, prosperity. Okay. Likewise, we have any number of gods here in Hindu religion. So here the poet compares, unlike other gods, you find work for every face and made eyes at only one woman. Yeah, that is something very critical here. When the poet talks about the business of gods and goddesses, so maybe this is the ironical statement made by the poet, and very straightforwardly the poet says that you have a business, you have some work for each of your faces. That is, you have got 6 faces and you do 6 types of works there, but you have eye upon only one woman. So this is something very, critical, what I personally feel. But here I would like to tell you one thing, that in our context, Kumar Swami or Kartikeya, as you call him, is considered to be a man who follows celibacy. A man or a god who follows celibacy. Celibacy means brahmacharya, the man who never comes in contact with any woman and does not like to also. So here, the poet is using this sarcastic statement by saying that you have an eye upon only one woman. See here, once again I read it for your understanding. Unlike other gods, you find work for every face. So here the poet is very clearly saying that each of your faces, because 6 faces are there, you find work for each of your faces and made eyes at only one woman. And the poet is critically saying that all 12 eyes are concentrating or focusing or staring at only one woman. Then who is that woman all about? And your arms are like faces with proper names. And towards the end of this particular stanza, this stanza is very short, this prayer is very short, I would say. And towards the end of this short prayer, the poet says, and your arms. In the previous expression, for the hands, the poet has used the word arrow. But now, at least he is using the word arms, and your arms are like faces with proper names. It means each of your hands, each of your wings, each of your arrows has its own identity as such. If you see Lord Murugan, you will find that Lord Murugan is carrying so many things in his hands. Okay, he is having an arrow, he is having different weapons, he is having a bow, he is having a sword, and all that. So maybe some other time I will show you the image of Lord Murugan, or on WhatsApp I will circulate the image of Lord Murugan, and you will find that couple of women are sitting just aside him. So this is also presented in the image created online. I could search it and I will send it to you for your better understanding. So this is how the poet has expressed his ideas in the first prayer and the second prayer. So we have the subsequent parts also, or the subsequent prayers also, but I think due to the lack of time, I will not be able to complete any of the parts there. So in my next class, of course, tomorrow, I will deal with part number 3 onwards. Okay. So we'll just put a pause here for the day, and thank you very much for attending this class.